this is Danny Draven. I'm an independent filmmaker, director, and producer. The very first movie I produced was a movie called Crips. It was a urban horror comedy. It was one of those movies that was, at that time, was a made-to-order kind of production.
As I told you, the consequences will be severe.
And Crips was the first one, and that was the first one I actually got kind of thrown into producing. I just kind of went in head first, and then every movie since then, I usually produce and direct.
Those are some dead motherfuckers.
Film school is great. There are a lot of things when I was in film school that I learned, a lot of theory and things that I was turned on to that I may have not been turned on to if I didn't go. But as far as actually getting my hands dirty, I didn't. When I got out of film school, I didn't have enough experience to step on a set, to direct a movie, to produce a movie. I had to do it on my own and learn by trial and error. And, you know, occasionally you'll see errors in movies, things we couldn't fix for whatever reasons. But all those things aside, it was a learning experience, and it was far more valuable than any film school by being just thrown into situations where you have to think on your feet and solve problems. There's no experience like it, no film school, no MFA program, anywhere. You just have to do it yourself. Action! When you're a producer for hire, usually you're given a certain amount of money to make a movie in a certain amount of time. And I've done this several times, and it does limit you on what you can do because you don't have very much control.
No, you fool! The master's not going to like that.
One really good piece of advice I can give you for producing a movie is if you're being financed or if you're using your own money, make sure you have your entire budget in your bank account before you start shooting. I've been hired to produce movies where I didn't have all of the money in the bank when we started shooting. The problems that causes is when you're piecemealed money out, you only get a certain amount of money every week while you're in pre-production, production, post-production. I would have a location out, I would have actors, crew, people that need to be paid, and I'm dependent on my executive producer and their financial situation at that particular week. I sweated it for a couple days. Luckily the money came in and everything was okay, but writing a check on a bank account where you're waiting on money from your financing source is kind of a scary thing to do. So make sure you have that money in the bank account before you start shooting.
It tastes good.
When you're producing low-budget films, you can call yourself a producer, but usually you're also doing the job of a line producer. You got to deal with everything. I mean, you will deal with everything from late actors, I've had a few drunk actors, to the cops showing up, the fire department showing up, people wanting to see your permits. What are you doing here, sir?
IDs.
Oh, yeah, sure.
When you're producing a movie for someone else, usually you don't have final say on the cast for your show. That's one thing I really like about being an independent filmmaker, completely separate, is you can actually decide on who is going to be in your movie and who is not, and you don't have to put anyone's girlfriend, lover, or whatever into your film. No. I mean, on my films, we just can't afford it. And so I end up doing most of the producing work myself, just because, one, I want to write every check. I want to know exactly where every penny of that budget is going. Because of the circumstances, because we only have 6-8 days to shoot a film in, I need to know where every $5, $10 check is going at all times, and I have to sign every single one of them. And you have to do it that way because you have to make sure every penny that you spend is on the screen. You don't want to be spending $50, $60 on little comforts, you know, like little refrigerators for your production office. That money should go on the screen. Stuart Gordon Presents Deathbed was a movie that we shot for $35,000. $25,000 of that was actual production money to actually shoot the show, and 10 of that was actual post-production. And we shot it in LA, you know, right down on Melrose.
Oh, baby, I ain't my girl. with my gourd.
Stuart and I teamed up. I guess he kind of wanted to see how some of these low-budget films were made. It was a lot of fun. He's a great guy. Deathbed was an 8-day shoot and 5 weeks of post-production. Good producer is somebody that, one, is extremely good with people. There are a lot of people you have to deal with every day. There's a lot of problems that you're going to have to deal with, and you can't be somebody that's short-tempered, somebody that's not diplomatic. That, for me, has worked really well when I produce films. If somebody brings you a problem, if somebody's complaining about the food, if somebody's complaining about going over an hour, you can't start screaming at that person. You have to know how to handle these situations. And I think that's really what can separate you from being a really good producer and one that's kind of an ass. I have always directed what I've produced, and I love doing that. It's very difficult, though, and I have to tell you this for a fact. I remember one situation in particular where Stuart Gordon was on the set that day. He was the executive producer, and I was the producer and the director. So I was blocking a scene. Actually, we were shooting the scene, and as the scene was happening, I noticed that in the background, one of the 2K lights was a little too close to one of the flags, and it started to smoke. The flag started to burn a little bit of a hole through it. Well, the director part of my brain said, okay, we got to keep shooting because the camera's rolling and we need to finish this scene out. And then the producer side of my brain said, oh shit, that flag is going to cost me $100 to replace when this movie is over, and I don't have $100 to replace that flag. We need to stop and make sure that it doesn't burn a bigger hole and cost the production more money. And my producer half, I think, got the better half of me on that particular situation. I had to stop in the middle of a great scene, and I said, oh, yeah, the flag is burning, turn the light off. And I remember Stuart was saying, I think he leaned over and said something along the lines of, don't worry about the flag. It's just a flag. But my producer side kept saying, I had to stop. I have to save the movie money. I have to save it money. When you're producing and directing at the same time, and in my case, I was line producing at the same time, you deal with all the details from when people are showing up to what time food is coming. And it's a lot to do when you're directing at the same time. So if you can have somebody else that's helping you out, and I did on some of the shows, I definitely had people that were helping me out. But you got to be able to say, okay, if there's a problem that comes up, you need to let somebody else deal with it, and you need to focus on directing the film. Making independent films, you really got to know everyone's job, and that's always been a fun part for me because I'm extremely technical. I'm also an editor, and I just know everyone's job, from the line producer to the production managers to the gaffer, the DP. I know how long a lighting setup should take. You have to know these things in order to be a really good producer, because it's your job to know everyone else's job and to make sure everybody else is doing their job okay. Otherwise, it's hard to make a movie really fast. It's hard to make something in 6 to 8 days, unless you really know how to stay on top of everyone on your crew. When you're producing and directing at the same time, you can become a little bit schizophrenic, I think. I've been in situations where the director half of me wanted to splat blood all over the locations. Didn't really give a damn. We were paying to be there, but didn't really care that it was going to get all over the wall. So the director half of me is like, just splatter the blood, who cares? Whatever it takes to get this shot is what it takes to get the shot. The producer half of you is yelling at the director half saying, that's going to cost us money. They're going to throw us out. We're going to have to repaint the wall. We can't do it. We've broken doors in locations just so we could have a hand go through the door. We didn't even ask permission to have the axe go through the door. We just took the axe and ran it through the door, shot it. We did get the shot. It was great. And, the director half prevailed in that particular situation. We actually made Dark Walker in Fresno. We actually shot for 12 or 15 days, but we had a full run of this haunted amusement park in Fresno called Hobbs Grove. Little tarot cards were made. They had a lot of these cool little marketing things afterwards. The one thing I was really excited about was they actually did a full Halloween mask, and you can buy it online or anywhere. It's out there. So that was really cool to see something that you worked on for so little actually have a mask made of it. So there's all kinds of things you can do with the marketing.
So it's a tough business, Danny, being a monster. 'Cause, you know, I just hang out here with my little, my little homie house, you know what I'm saying? And I wait till the next Victor comes along.
I stopped making these sort of really fast cookie cutter shows because I really wanted to concentrate on something that I had complete 100% control of from beginning to end. So that spawned a movie called Ghost Month. We shot it for 10 days, and we shot it on 35 millimeter. I've always wanted to shoot on film from the very beginning. From the very first movie I directed, but we just couldn't do it for whatever reason, and it wasn't really my decision ultimately. So I never got that opportunity until Ghost Month. There's so many productions that are being shot on digital or 24p these days. You know, I wanted to be a little different on this one and have, you know, if the pile over here is digital and then the pile over here is film and there's only a few shows in it, I wanted Ghost Month to be in the film pile. It was more expensive. I cut costs during the show, and I don't regret it. For that particular film, I had some investors, and I was also an investor as far as my time and the work that's done. Like, you know, I don't pay myself to edit the film. I didn't pay myself to produce it, to direct it. You know, so when you look at a budget for a movie like Ghost Month, you see producer, director, editor, sound, and all these different jobs, and you just see zero. And that means basically I have to do it myself. And I've done a lot of post-production work, so I was able to do a lot of my own editing and sound design and putting together flyers and marketing. Again, and the more things you know how to do, the more things that you can bring to the table when you're producing a movie, the more money you can save. I mean, if I would have had to pay for all those things that I was able to do myself, that budget would have probably doubled, at least.
There's too many to name. I like them all.
There's nothing more gratifying than producing your own damn movie. When I made Ghost Month, every stage of that film I had control over. And for the first time, out of all the crazy, strange movies that I've made, that was the very first time where I actually felt, you know, this is something that I can be really proud of. I produced it, I directed it, I edited it, I took it through almost every single stage you can possibly imagine. And, you know, there is no more gratifying feeling in the world than to be 100% truly independent.